Thank y'all for subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button and notification bell to let everybody know. Comment at the bottom. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Share it with your friends. Today on Hog Dog News, we're talking about the bloodlines of Mexico City. Let's get into it.
If I find my way home, yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy? Don't you step amaze me? Wouldn't it be crazy? Don't you step amaze me? Wouldn't it be crazy? Don't you step amaze me? Wouldn't it be crazy? Don't you step amaze me? If I find my way home, yeah.
Alright, before we get deep off in that Bulldog news, let's do a quick history moment. Do you know in 1936, the American Kennel Club, not only was that the year that they recognized the pit bull, but do you know that they recognized 50 pit bulls throughout the country? They used 50 pit bulls to represent that breed that they recognized. And one of them 50 dogs was the PD of Little Rascal, which was a Kobe dog, which is coming down off the Kobe stuff. And we all know the pits was registered up in Staffordshire at different times. And this is because they couldn't, the name pit bull drew, a bad reputation. So by using the name Staffordshire, the owners were allowed to sell their dogs easier, and they got a better reputation with the dogs. However, it is known that most of the staffs from 1950 through 1960 were game dogs. Were game dogs registered up as Staffordshire Terriers. And two of the bloodlines from way back in them days that was pretty popular back then were the Ruffian, I think I'm pronouncing it right, the Ruffian and the Expert. The Ruffian led back to Mr. J.P. Colby, and Expert led back to Mr. J.P. Colby, William Lightner, and Con Feely. Okay, let's talk about the lines of Mexico City. In the early 90s, two young fellows in Mexico City was bitten by the bulldog bug, and it would have an impact on their lives that would last forever. Just a bunch of young jits at the time, Mr. Aragon and Mr. Garcia also shared a common love for birds. Now the bird of choice for these guys were messenger pigeons. Now dealing with the birds, they also met a new friend named Mr. Curaz, who would play a big part in these guys' story. Now the story goes, Mr. Aragon left Mexico City back in the 90s, to go pursue his dream in the United States and to make more money, and he made a lot of money. He came back to Mexico City, and when he came back to Mexico City, he was loaded. He had done worked and bust his ass in America. When he came back to Mexico City, his friend Mr. Curaz had a newfound love for the bulldog. And being Mr. Aragon had came back to Mexico City with a pocket full of that American cash, he wanted to buy himself a bulldog as well. So he got a bulldog for Mr. Curaz. Now during this time, the 15-year-old Curaz, Garcia, and Aragon was studying up under an older Dr. Garcia, who had game dogs already. And he had just dropped the lid on the ground. Now Dr. Garcia, he knew about pedigrees, he knew about bloodlines. He was well educated in the bulldog system, in the bulldog game. And not only was Dr. Garcia well educated in the bulldog, he was a veterinarian. He was a veterinarian, and the bloodline that he ran was called Los Chatos. Los Chatos. Now this line ran back to Stu Fowler and other red lines that a Mexican professional boxer had brought back from the US. Now Dr. Garcia loved these red dogs. The red nose, the red skin. Some came out silver, some came out brindle. They had baggy, loose skin, big heads. They were real intelligent, and they had the determination to never quit. Now during this era, there was another line of dogs that everybody liked in Mexico City, really more than the other lines, which was called Los Chamucos. Now this line came down from Blind Billy and Eli with a touch of Red Devil and claws. They were said to be late starters and straightforward dogs with unbelievable power. The Barrera brothers, showed in this photo behind me, ran the Los Chamucos lines, and Mr. Rodriguez also in this next photo. Mr. Rodriguez was one of the first ones to bring the Los Chamucos dogs to Mexico City. Now, Dr. Garcia would often show Curaz, Garcia, and Mr. Aragon photos, pedigrees, and he would often brag about his red dog, Los Chatos. Now, Dr. Garcia loved his red dogs. He loved them. But any dog man know if they got to add something to their dog, to their program, to beef it up a little bit. And Dr. Garcia knew that the Chamuco dogs, the black and chocolate dogs, were bringing a lot of power and a lot of strength to the table. So he wanted to cross that line. So Dr. Garcia decided to breed his Cecilia bitch that came down off his red dogs to Dr. Barron's Geronimo. Now off this litter came 5 pups that will make history in the dog game today. One went Mr. Aragon, which he named La Maroma. Another went to Curaz, which he named Yako, and 2 more went to the Barrera brothers. Now young during this time, Mr. Aragon believed in being in tip-top shape. He and his brother ran marathons, and it was said that some of his brothers ran marathons in the US. Now it wasn't long before young Aragon had got married. Now once he got married, he ended up getting rid of his dogs. He got rid of his dogs to his homeboy Garcia. Garcia kept him for a while, and his mother made him get rid of him, and he got rid of the dog to his homeboy Curaz. Now everywhere this dog went, they had luck with this dog. But Curaz ended up selling the dog to Mr. Bellin. Now Mr. Bellin got the dog. When he got the dog, he changed the dog name to Tomasa, which is the name that most people know today. Now Mr. Aragon and his friend Garcia were credited for having some of the best Mexican Eli blood to date. Those guys preserved the blood the right way when they did it and gave you an opportunity to see what a good Mexican Eli dog is. And if you're looking for some of that good Mexican Eli blood, holla at Mestizo Kennels. They got some of the best Mexican Eli blood floating around, so holla at them. Not knocking anybody else's blood, because people will think I'm talking trash about this, your Mexican Eli blood or your Mexican Eli. Nah, I'm just talking about, what I know about. But anyway, I ain't gonna keep y'all too long, just giving you a little history on the Mexican Eli blood, or a strain of the Mexican Eli blood. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, share it with your friends if you haven't yet. We gonna keep bulldogging, you know how I do it, fair and unbiased, the Hog Dog News, giving it to you. It's your boy Pelican Bay Kennels, and I'm out.